So I've talked about it before, but I get this question a lot. Barry, you said that you're the kind of guy who gets motion sickness. What is that? What's it like? And can you cure it? Well, the definition of motion sickness is nausea caused by motion, especially by traveling in a vehicle. Well, okay then. What causes motion sickness? I mean, motion, obviously, but why are some people affected by it and others are not? And that's another good question. See, motion sickness happens when the body, the inner ear, and the eyes send conflicting signals to the brain. So let's take that car scenario. When I'm driving my car, I'm fine. I don't get sick because my subconscious, my equilibrium, and two of my five senses, sight and sound, are all synchronized. I understand why the vehicle is being propelled. I'm stepping on the gas and I cause the motion. However, when I'm sitting in a car, especially the back seat, my equilibrium, my senses, and my subconscious are not synchronized. My brain cannot understand why I'm being propelled forward. It doesn't know why I'm stationary, yet things are moving by. And the motion, the trees moving by, the other cars, the air conditioning not moving at the same speed we are, this throws me off and makes my body try to reject what it doesn't understand. And the body is limited on what it can do to try to fix the problem, so it attempts to make me feel sick in hopes of explaining the situation and potentially curing it by making me throw up. And I'd rather die than throw up. Now I know this is a lot of information, and if motion sickness doesn't affect you, I'm sorry if the video seems boring, but this does affect me and a lot of people, and I'll talk about why this is beneficial for all of us later. We're not going to touch on the gaming side of this just yet. So what does motion sickness feel like? Well, imagine feeling like you have the flu. You're dizzy, you feel like you're gonna throw up, it's very hot, and you most likely become angry or stressed. See, the thing is, there's no fix for motion sickness like there is for other things. For instance, if I cut my thumb, I can bandage it and I'll be fine. If I get a headache, I can take some pills and I'll be okay. But with motion sickness, if I feel sick, I can't take headache pills. I can't take motion sickness pills because they won't have any effect after the fact. And I can't just let myself throw up because that's your body's way of trying to solve the problem, but it's not actually fixing the issue. They're just making you throw up for no reason, and you still feel just as dizzy and sick even after you throw up. And the worst part is, for me personally, I know everyone's different, but if I get motion sickness at the beginning of the week, depending on how severe it was, I will not lose that feeling up to 2 weeks. When I flew on a plane and stayed in Kansas for 2 weeks, I had motion sickness the entire time. And after a certain VR game made me sick 4 days ago, I'm still suffering from it throughout the day. Now, am I just a wuss? Possibly, and I do hate complaining about it. Firstly, as I said before, there isn't anything I can do, so complaining about it is pointless. And secondly, it makes you feel like a wimp. Why is it that all my friends can play games at 70 FOV and be totally fine, but I can't? Why is it that they can not only ride in the backseat of a car, but read while they do it? Why can they fly in a plane while watching a movie, and I have a hard time just sitting there? You feel weak, and it sucks. Now, if you are susceptible to motion sickness, there are no cures, but there are things you can do to try to stop or slow it before it starts. One is embrace the cold. Heat will only make motion sickness worse. Do not cover your ears or eyes. You need those at 100% working condition, because if they go offline, you will not be synchronized anymore. Another thing is to stay away from sweet foods and don't eat before doing anything that you know makes you sick. And finally, if you know you're gonna get sick, take a motion sickness pill hours before. They don't work on me, but they do work for a lot of people. Now comes the gaming aspect. Many may ask why it's such a big deal to have an FOV slider in your games, why frame rate should be stable, and especially why VR should play at least 90 FPS. So let's go through them one by one. Let's start with FOV because it's the most important and the one that can affect you the most. If you've ever been playing a game and you start to get a headache and wonder what might be the cause, I will bet you it's probably a low field of view. A low field of view can really make you feel trapped in, and regardless as to whether it's a first-person game or a third-person game, being that narrow is very bad for me, and I've actually had to not play certain games, had to miss out on titles that I could have loved because there was no FOV slider, and I could not play the game without getting sick. The fact that FOV sliders still come missing in games annoys me. Same with colorblind options. These things should be necessary. Now, frame rates. A steady 30 FPS is fine. A steady 60 FPS is great. A steady 57 FPS is fine. So long as the frame rate is steady everything, normally, is going to be okay. But for those of us with motion sickness, an unsteady frame rate is a disaster. And not because it shows laziness with a developer and looks terrible, but because when you immerse yourself into a video game and you're looking at nothing but a screen or TV that you're playing on, that becomes your world. Our eyes and our brains are engineered to see, receive, and understand smooth motion. If all of a sudden our world started clipping, freezing, and stuttering, we would fall apart and fall sick. That's why when people say that we can only see at 30 FPS, it doesn't make sense. That would kill us. And we would have no other choice not to feel sick because we're not constructed to handle that. And this goes the same for VR, and why the frame rate has to be 90 at minimum. Because solid, fluid motion is a necessity for all of us. For those of you who don't get motion sickness from choppy frame rate on a monitor, you're lucky, because for us, it kills us and we will fall ill. I know I went on for a while, but it's something that's been affecting me my whole life, and it sucks to sit there and play a video game, and because of something in the game, I can't play anything for the rest of the day. Imagine being that guy who has to stop. Your friends are relying on you in a multiplayer video game, but what can you do? And it always feels so stupid when you tell them that you aren't feeling well because of the video game. What kind of man are you to get a headache from a video game? But I ask that you try to understand. If someone tells you that they can't play a game because of the FOV, that is a real issue. Yeah, it's small, but it hurts. And having a hobby that you enjoy bring that kind of pain onto you, it just sucks. But there is a silver lining, and it's great for all of us. FOV sliders in video games. You really don't need any convincing as to why adjusting your field of view is so nice, but the fact is we can, and more games are implementing this because of people like me, and regardless as to whether you suffer or not, you have even more power and customization, and that's what PC gaming is all about. And for those of you out there who make fun of people like me, call me a wimp for not being able to play games on low FOV or unsteady frame rates. Those of you who claim that they're too tough to ever experience motion sickness. Well, I think you should play Ark on the Oculus Rift.